Brothers and sisters, every goal of our spiritual life is to know how to find God and how to communicate with Him. And this is the art of the spiritual life. This is the art of Catholic mysticism. How to find God and how to communicate with Him. Well, the secret is how really to let God find us and how to be open to a God who wants to communicate with us. So that is something we must keep in our mind. We spoke about yesterday about the importance of the love that perfects our Christian life, and it perfects, first of all, our contemplative life is at the heart of our interior life, the contemplation of God, and that this flows into our active life, love of neighbor and serving our neighbor, great love. And together, when love of neighbor flows out of the love for God, that we call that an apostolic life, because that's the life of the apostles, that's the life of what Christian life should be. And so, but in the end, our life is ultimately flows from contemplation, but flows back to it. The life of heaven is before us, the mystery of the end. What I mean by the end, well, our fulfillment, what we're heading to is a life of great contemplation. That's what heavenly life is where we will see God in His essence. But contemplation is never boring. It never gets old. Prayer never gets old because God is ever new. And so we already taste that in this life. If we set out on the high road of prayer to contemplation, it will give us that sense that heaven is never a boring place, because God in His infinite essence will infinitely captivate us with this most incredible joy, and we will share this with others as together we contemplate in love the wise vision of God, His wisdom and His love, and we will see all things within the all God. And so, but how do we find God and how do we communicate with Him? And this is the life. And leads us to the key that I've been talking about. And this whole idea of this hidden God. God is there, but yet He's hidden. And so we need to talk basically about a few things. And so, first of all, if there was a master who was a great philosopher, a great thinker, was just wonderful in his wisdom and in his love, and everybody's heard about him. Well, how do you make contact with him? Well, you have to go find him, and then you have to learn how to communicate with him. But God's more wise and greater than any master or anybody that's ever existed. So how do we find Him? How do we communicate with Him? And so, of course, this brings us ultimately to the mystery of the prayer and sacraments. Prayer is a privileged way of encountering God. And if our contemplative life is to be real and authentic, it must be based on the encounter with God. We see that in the scriptures. People might have heard of Christ, but when they encountered Him, their lives changed. So, have you encountered Jesus Christ? This is a real question we have to ask ourselves all the time. Do I really encounter Jesus? Do I just know Him from a distance? Do I know Him from other people? Have I just been taught Him? Have I been brought up in a church and neighborhood, and I'm involved in the parish? I could be on the head of the parish committee. I could be doing a million things in the parish, running the show, and not know Jesus Christ. This happens all the time. People may, on paper, seem to be great Christians, but they haven't met Jesus. And we must meet Jesus. This is the heart of our Christian contemplative life. To go speak with Him and to let Him speak to us so that we could be energized by that interior word. But we need to understand this in a better way. So Archbishop Martinez says that, well, God is everywhere. We move and have our being in Him. So He's there. We know He's there. We can find Him. But how do we communicate with Him? How do we really actually find Him? He could be there in the tabernacle. He's there in our hearts. And yet we could feel at times a distance from Him. Or at least we think we are at distance from Him. So how do we get in touch with Him? And this comes to the whole theme of this whole few weeks. The hiddenness of God. That God is there, but yet He's hidden. And so we have to pursue Him then. We have to seek Him, and we can find Him. And so while He's hidden, yes, it doesn't mean that He can't be found. Like a child hiding in a secret place can be found. And so the hiddenness of God is not meant to mean that God cannot be made contact with, or that God cannot be spoken to, or that God can't speak with us. That's not what hiddenness means, worshipping a hidden God. No, it's learning how to enter true contact with Him, and that's true worship. That's how we worship a hidden God. We can worship a hidden God. We can make contact with Him. Just a heads up, there's going to be a part 2 to this video because I'm taking too long. So, does he not penetrate to the very depth of our hearts? We do not even have to open our lips. It suffices that we open our heart. It suffices that we love. Furthermore, we know that he is ever seeking us, that he is eager to enter into communion with us. And what mystery is this? If all people, the wise, the ignorant, the simple, the imperfect, and even sinners, have the right to enter into communication with God, why then is it so difficult then for us to enter into relationship with God if he's around us and he's everywhere? Why is it so difficult? Often our replies could be, well, I cannot pray. I cannot make contact with God. How so? If prayer is, as it were, the breath of the soul, and that is true, I feel the need to pray, I wish to do so, but I'm not able to. I cannot form a single act of prayer. Okay, we'll continue on shortly.